Hi, my name's Frank. Welcome to my woodturning channel. This week I'm going to try to salvage this slab of burl. It's very punky. So the first thing I'm going to do, you can see there's dust coming out of it. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take a brush and get out all the little bits of loose stuff. And my first application will be to put some wood hardener epoxy on this first before I try to do a pour. The first thing I have to do with this burl is to harden up the soft areas all around the hole. It's very punky, so I'm just going to use this wood hardener from System 3 to harden up the areas before I do the epoxy pour. After the hardener is dried, now I have to seal up the back of this piece. And I'm going to start with just some 6mm plastic sheeting here. I'm just going to cut it to shape and then tape it all down and seal it up so the epoxy won't leak out. For the deeper pour, I'm going to use this deep casting epoxy from Resin, and I've got some mica powders there to use to color the epoxy up. I'm going to go mainly with blue and try adding in a little bit of red to see if I can get some coloration in there as well. I don't have a fancy mixer to put in my drill, so as you can see, I'm just mixing by hand. Well, this first batch that I mixed up sure is not going very far. I'm going to definitely need a few more batches of this epoxy mixed up. As you can see, I've tried to put in a little bit of this red colored epoxy in here, and hopefully it's going to give some contrast and stay in there. This is now my last little bit of blue decast epoxy. After this, I don't have any left, so it's not going to quite fill the hole in there as I'd hoped, but I think I can work with it the way it is. I'm not sure what happened or why it happened, but the red that I had in there is totally gone. The only color I see now is blue. I mean, it's all right. I just had really hoped to have that blue and red marbling effect. Yeah, the red disappeared on me. I don't really understand why. Normally, if the piece is thick enough, I would just use a faceplate right on the face of it. But with the epoxy there and this piece being relatively thin, I'm just going to screw a piece of plywood to the face of it and then attach the faceplate to the plywood. And that will allow me to start the turning. Now I can mount the piece and then turn a dovetail mortise on the back of the piece, And that's what I do with all my wall pieces. I'm just using a 5/8 inch bowl gouge to get off the majority of the epoxy on the back. The cutting's not going that well. I'm not getting a very smooth cut, and it's dulling the tool really fast. And the pieces are all coming off in chunks, like pieces of glass almost. You can see here the surface finish is just terrible with the gouge. So I'm going to have to try something different. I'm going to try this carbide scraper from Easy Wood Tools. And I'm also going to try just a regular negative rake scraper as well. Hopefully both of these will give me a little bit better surface finish. Well, the carbide scraper seemed to do the trick. I'm getting a much better surface finish. And now to cut the mortise with the dovetail here, I'm going to use the bowl gouge again, but this time I'm going very, very slow and just taking a light cut. And this way it actually is giving me a better surface finish. These are all the little bits of epoxy that came off the back of the piece. Here you can see they're just like little pieces of glass. Well, the back's all done, and now we can take it off and move to the front. Those screw holes around the outer perimeter are going to disappear because I'm going to thin out that area. So there should be no problems, hopefully. I'm going to start with this carbide cutter again, just to take off all the little high spots of epoxy. And then after that, I'm going to use probably a 1/2 inch bowl gouge for most of this. I'm just cutting this outer edge with a bowl gouge. And I'll cut down as far as I can, and also until all those little screw holes disappear. Here I'm just using a negative rake scraper just to help smooth out any of the little details that I start creating. I'm trying not to cut in too deep here because the epoxy left a nice smooth blue finish that was a little bit lower than the top surface, so I want to leave that and try not to disturb it whatsoever. This is just the assortment of tools I used. You can see bowl gouges and some negative rake scrapers. And now it's time to do some sanding. Here I've taped over the blue area so that the sandpaper doesn't scratch it up. Just doing a bit of carving on some of the higher areas. Just putting on some final touches at this point. I've done some of the heavier carving earlier. After some airbrushing and application of some silver gilding paste, I'm pretty well done.